President Muhammadu Buhari. I'm Sean Kimbaloye.
And I'm Maokpe Ogun Yusuf.
President Muhammadu Buhari's taciturn reputation is no secret, and so the interview was a rare one.
The president's preference for communication with his people, we had been told, was not through interviews. And in almost 7 years of an 8-year presidency, one could count on one hand how many sit-downs he's had.
So what a pleasant surprise we had when we were informed that our request for an interview with the president had been granted. The only conditions, we had to send the questions beforehand, and we had 40 minutes. A generous increment from an earlier 30.
Nevertheless, we were determined to make the most of it.
Absolutely.
The president walked in at about 8:30 p.m. to New Year greetings from my colleague and I.
Good evening, Your Excellency, sir. Happy New Year to you, sir.
Same to you, reluctantly.
And after settling in, we get right to it. In his New Year Day statement to Nigerians, President Buhari had said, security remained on the front burner, and that is precisely where we start.
Your New Year speech. And in that speech, you told Nigerians, you said, and I quote, the persistent insecurity in certain parts of the country may have threatened or unravel the incremental gains achieved. Did you envisage the enormity of the task when you promised to tackle insecurity as President and Commander-in-Chief of our country?
Well, I think you can recall that when I was campaigning, right, 2015, there were 3 fundamental issues: security, economy, and fighting corruption. And for Nigerians to be fair to this administration is to try and find out, from the time we won the election in 2015 to now, in the 3 promises we made, improving security, improving the economy, and trying to fight corruption. Well, securing the country in the northeast, if you ask anybody from Borno State, from Yobe State, from Adamawa State, there were a number of local governments, about 18, that were in the hands of Boko Haram. None of any local government now is strictly in the hand of Boko Haram or ISWAP. So, in that respect, we have done something. In the economy, don't forget, and I challenge so many people to go and check with the central bank or NNPC, the production from 1999 to 2014 was 2.1 million barrels a day, average production, at the average cost of $100 American per barrel. When we came, somehow the militants were unleashed in the south-south. Production went down to 500,000 barrels a day. And I think by some fabulous coincidence, the price again collapsed to about $37 per barrel. But look at what we did within the time frame and the resources available to us relative to the government we inherited from.
Well, the economy and security are 2 very pressing areas, Mr. President, and I'm sure that over and over again we'll keep going there. You talked about how the militants were unleashed. Some people will say that President Erdogan also faced that crisis when he ascended, when he became president, and that was one of the reasons why he had to, come up with the amnesty program. But I'll take you back again to security. You've spoken about the progress we've made in the Northeast, and that is true. The camps are being emptied. The Northwest continues to be of concern, where we see bandits, unleashed in many parts of the Northwest, sometimes getting to the north central of the country. Would you say that we understand fully the problems we're currently facing in terms of security in the Northwest?
In the Northwest, it's the same people, the same culture, stealing each other's animals, killing each other, burning villages. So I think the only language they understand, we discuss it thoroughly, with the law enforcement agencies, the service chiefs, the Inspector General of Police, is to go after, the terrorists. We label them terrorists, and we are going to deal with them with such. And I believe if you go to those constituencies in the Northwest and North Central, within the last 4 weeks, there are improvements in the security. There is improvement in the security.
It is true. I mean, because the farmers' herders crisis was one that was a big challenge a few years back and maybe a few months back as well. It's come down somewhat, but some people are attributing it to the seasons. They think it's about the weather. And that now that we're entering the peak of the dry season, perhaps you could see a resurgence again. Would you say that we have dealt with that problem once and for all, or do you fear that it could rear its head again?
We cannot do much about the weather, but about the security, we have taken steps, and we are seeing the results, and we thank God for that. For the weather, we can only pray and hope that the weather they are mentioning, the climate change and so on. Nigeria, we are very susceptible to such issues because of our population and the size of the country. Population is the size of the country.
I made that reference to weather because, people believe that when things get dry up north, that's when you begin to see the herders coming down south, and that's when we see the resurgence of the conflict between farmers and herders. So that's why I made reference to the weather. Do you think that that has been sorted once and for all?
Yes. The ministers of agriculture from Audu Obe to Mahmoud now, one of the issues I discussed with them personally is to go and get the gazettes of First Republic, especially from the northern states. There are cattle routes and grazing grounds. And the cattle rearers are confined to those areas. Those that go outside that one are arrested, and farmers are encouraged to come and lay their claims. If they don't have the money, their cattle were sold, and the farmers are settled. So we said we have to go back to the system again to try and make sure that we prepare the grazing areas, dams, windmills, even veterinary departments, so that the herders don't stray into people's farms and into the towns and so on. So really, we are working on that.
The back and forth on issues of security continued. The focus for us was to highlight the solutions on how to bring an end to the killings.
The concern here, Mr. President, is finding a lasting solution. What in your mind do you think can help bring a lasting solution to these issues, herder crises and the issues of banditry?
There is a problem of culture. And problem of culture, you have to study it to understand it. The life of normal herders, the ones with a lot of kids, they depend entirely on them. They sell the milk, they sell the animals to pay tax and so on, and buy, say, sugar or salt or something. Is their entire way of life. So if those cattle were taken away from them, they normally become very wild, because that's the only thing they know. It's a cultural problem. And the way we do it starts from bottom upwards. The leadership to make sure that the grazing areas and the water points are secure to them. That they don't have to go through some people's farm to go to the water points. Once, say, you have got 50 cows, after eating grass, they will just head where to drink.
If a governor, for example, suggested that we need to bomb these bandits in their forest, are you looking in that option, a full military assault on them? Because what is on the minds of an average person in the Northwest is to see a situation where these bandits are taking out totally the kidnapping, the killings of innocent Nigerians in that region.
Well, I told you what we have done. We met at least 4 times with the service chiefs and other law enforcement agencies. Each meeting taking at least 4 hours. We have discussed thoroughly what to do with the situation. Luckily, I have a military background from the civil war to now. So we discuss on what we understand, and we try to secure and make it safe for the leadership at communities level. Because it's very important, the best intelligence, you get it from the local leadership, because they know who is who in their areas of responsibilities. You have to talk to them, but you must make sure they are safe, because the bandits, or whatever we call them, they can be a source of insecurity to them or to their members of the family, and we are very conscious of that. But I ask you to please try and check within the last 6 weeks, and so there is an improvement in the Northwest and North Central.
I probably want us to move, because of our time, to some other areas that are also very important. But, Mr. President, I'd like you to please answer to the concerns of those who have the belief that policing or security issues are majorly local. And we've seen state governments and regional governments also thinking in that direction. In the Southwest, they're talking about Moteton. In the Southeast, they're talking about Ebubeago. And a lot of people are thinking about reformation of the police system, state policing. Do you think this is a possible solution to the insecurity in Nigeria?
Well, you see, the role of traditional rulers must not be undermined, because in their areas, as I said, they know who is who, even by families, not even talk of individuals. So we have to revert to that system for us to have an effective security in the localities. For example, there were 2 governors that came to see me about problem, and I don't mind saying that the governors of Oyo State and the governor of this other state in Ondo, not Ondo, Oyo State and one other state. I said, because the herders were in their forests, but the animals were going into the neighboring farms and eating the crop. I said, as far as I know, the farmers and the herders have been coexisting in Nigeria. Let them go and ask the local leadership what has gone wrong, why the break in communication between the local leadership and the herders that come on seasonal basis, the route they follow, the forest they confine themselves to. Why are they now extending into the farms of people? I just sent them back, because these things haven't been happening this year or last year or 10 years ago. For generations, people have been living like that.
So the state policing is not an option?
No, state police is not an option. Now, find out now the relationship between local government and the governors. Are they getting, at the 3rd tier of government, are they getting what they are supposed to get constitutionally? Are they getting it? Try and see those people from local government that have confidence in you to tell you the truth, the fighting between local government and the governors.
I think it's fair for us to go into the economy.
It is indeed, Seun. Let's, Mr. President, you know, you performed a few activities. Well, a lot of people thought you're going to be winding down for the holidays. And we're thinking that perhaps the budget might not be signed again. Maybe we'll have to wait till January, especially because of the implementation of the the signing of the Electoral Act, which was sent back to the National Assembly, non-assented to. We thought that that was not going to happen, but there was a surprise package. You signed the 2022 budget into law, but you had very strong reservations about it. And you did not mince words in saying how you felt about that. I mean, provisions for as many as 10,733 projects were reduced, while 6,576 new projects were introduced into the budget by the National Assembly. Those are some of the things that some of the objections which you raised. Do you fear that the budget might not be able to achieve its purpose?
No, not at all. My confidence that we can successfully implement the budget was because in both houses our party is leading. It's APC party, and the leadership. Look at the Senate President. He was in the House of Representatives, I think, 2 times or 3 times. Before he went to the Senate, he read for PhD. Look at Femi Fajamila. I was watching on the television when he was an ordinary member. He was always on his feet, fighting for the party and the system we believed in. So really, I consider myself lucky. My party, under competent leadership, are both leading in the Senate and the House of Representatives. That's why you don't hear much about me. I allow them to do all the things because I can't go against my party, and I can't go against people I have absolute confidence in. I know they are doing their best.
So you do not think that the objections which you have raised is going to raise any friction between the executive arm and the legislature?
No, it wouldn't. The legislature is amazing me. If you could recall, about 60% of them didn't come back. Can't they think of what is happening in their constituencies? We have so much support in their constituencies. Their predecessors made the mistake and they haven't come back. They have lost their jobs. And maybe they have lost their names. So they have to be very careful.
Indeed. Maybe that's why they're asking for direct primaries, which you have told them roundly you're not going to support.
No, I'm not going to support. Personally, I don't support direct primaries because I want people to be given a choice. You can't give them one option and you think that you are being democratic. Let them have the 3 options.
The 3 options? I thought there were only 2. Direct and indirect.
No, there is a
consensus.
There are 3 options.
Which is your favorite? Because you, as president, when you were coming at the very first time as the presidential candidate of the APC, direct primaries was what your party went with. Why are you now saying that, you know, there has to be 3 options when you know that that's perhaps the one that would have favored you the most at the time when you were coming in, the fairest option, so to speak?
I would expect you to have asked me, how did we overthrow the PDP? And that explanation would have come with your answer. You remember, if you recall, ACN, ABUGA, ANPP, CPC, and another party, we came together. PDP was so overconfident that they thought they would rule Nigeria up to the end of time. But the opposition, we came together, we overthrew them.
They overthrew them because you were able to emerge as the presidential candidate of your party. And that was because of direct primaries.
No, not as a result of direct. It's as a result of the opposition coming together and fighting the certain party, the PDP. It's because we agreed to come together. As I told you, 4 or 5 parties.
Mr. President, do you think that you would have had a fighting chance if your party at that time had adopted indirect primaries?
whichever we look at it, the fact that we came together is what gave us the success we had. If we didn't come together, the four or five parties wouldn't have defeated the PDP. And they thought we would never, as opposition, get together. And that was the mistake they made. That's why they lost.
I was going to say, Mr. President, should the National Assembly come back with the bill and they edit out what you don't like, would you sign it?
I don't think I told them what I don't like. All I said, there should be options. We must not insist that it has to be direct. It should be consensus and indirect.
So if they do that, would you sign it?
Yes, I will. I will sign. All I would like is that there should be options. You can't dictate to people, and you said you are doing democracy. Allow them, other options, so that they can make a choice. A constituency can come together. They say, okay, we pick Mr. A.
Let me take you back to the issue of the economy. And I would like to know, Your Excellency, what kind of economy do you think you want to bequeath to Nigerians?
Well, the economy is free economy. And what is free economy? You allow people, to make sure that their industries are patronized. You have to stop smuggling. You have to stop developed countries dumping goods on your country. Because of technology, they can produce faster, they can produce more with less resources. So you have to protect your economy. That was why ECOWAS and any other organization, either within the system of ECOWAS or within Africa, we have to make sure that we have encouraged our own industries for employment, for using our own resources, and for security. Because we are so far behind in technology, if you allow dumping, I'm afraid unemployment, especially in the case of Nigeria, where we have a large population, you are going to have trouble.
So when you announced today that Dr. Doyin Salami will now be advising you on the issues of the economy, what specific role would you, because he's the head of your Presidential Economic Advisory Council, in what specific areas do you want him to play? Is he going to double as the head of the Economic Advisory Council and the economic advisor?
Yes, he's going to do that. He's capable of doing that. We have watched him. For example, the last time he briefed us, when I say us as the Executive Council, we found out that Nigerian arable land, only 2.5% of Nigerian arable land is being used. Yet people are shouting of unemployment. If we have invested more in agriculture, look, when we closed the border with Benin and Niger Republic, we stopped importation of rice. Now Nigerian, we produce the rice we need and we even export. So really, we have to exploit our own capacities. And Dr. Salami, it was fantastic. He is so committed, and economically, I think he's already a professor. We need him, and he's so committed and patriotic.
Why has the provision of regular electricity eluded several presidents? The Buhari administration set out in the beginning to fix this. But what has now gone wrong?
One of the former heads of state, between that time, was bragging that he spent more than 15 billion American dollars, not naira, on power. Where is the power? Where is the power?
You once asked here in the villa, where is the power? Are you happy with where we currently are with the state of electricity in Nigeria?
I am not. because I've identified that no country can develop without infrastructure. And infrastructure means roads, rail, power. These are three leading ones. And we are working very hard. When I say we, I mean this government, we are working very hard on the roads. Try to imagine what was happening even between Lagos and Ibadan 6 months ago and what it is now. And now we are doing from Lagos to Kano, the rail road from here to Kaduna to Kano. So we have to have that infrastructure right. And then Nigerians will mind their own businesses. But when when the infrastructure is not there, the roads are not done, the rail is virtually killed, there is no power, what do we expect people to do?
Mr. President, in all honesty, there's been some work which we can see in roads and rails, but power is a big question. We've been told we have 13,000 installed capacity. We've been told, TCN, as a transmission company, can do about 7,500. But we know that constantly, for a long time now, all we have had on the grid is 4,000 megawatts. What exactly is the problem with getting electricity, to increase and to the homes of Nigerians and businesses?
Well, let us try to answer the problem first. TCN is 100% government.
True.
But we inherited what they call discourse. They almost divided the country almost based on geopolitical zones. What was the basis? I still couldn't find it. The people that own them, who are they? They are not electrical engineers. They don't have money. It's just a political favor. And to remove a system and reintroduce one is no joke. Luckily, we have the TCN, and that is transmission. And if we can get our technology right, with the plenty of sunlight we have, all we need are panels all over the place, and we cut the cost on transmission and the likelihood of sabotaging the lines and so on.
You asked, we're persisting on the economy just for a few minutes. You announced an economic protection plan that of lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years. Mr. President, where are we on that? How many people have been lifted out of poverty so far?
I can't tell you offhand, but I am telling you that we are acutely aware that Nigerian population 35 years and below are the majority. And they don't care how government is going to make it, let them get job for them. But I've just told you that land, only 2.5% of the arable land is being cultivated. So we are going to turn our attention for the time remaining for us to agriculture, but clearing land, machinery, and so on. Probably, unfortunately, there is political problem. In the south, there is problem of land ownership. Very serious one. It's based on families and the ruling classes and so on. But luckily, mostly in the north, that all land belongs to government. So government can take areas and so on. So I think for the time remaining for us, for the 17 months, we'll turn a lot to agriculture.
But how are you doing on that plan of lifting millions of Nigerians? Because there is a target of just how many people you should be lifting every year. Are you on track, or there is a setback?
We have a setback, and it's resource shortage, because we need to buy machinery, tractors, clearing the land, dividing it, and encouraging people, giving them seeds. And fertilizers. And that costs money.
There are a lot of Nigerians, millions of them, who might be watching this interview right now, Mr. President. I know a lot of them might be wondering just how well you understand their sufferings, the number of people who cannot put food on their tables, who are not even sure where the next meal will be coming from. How much of these pains would you say you are aware of?
I'm absolutely aware of it. But as I said, look at the vastness of Nigeria. Only 2.5% of the arable land is being used. We realize this rather too late, but we have to go back to the land.
So we imagine that you'll be doing that very aggressively then.
Well, we have started. Remember, people were depending on foreign rice before. Now we are exporting rice. We have made some progress, you know. The closing of the borders, 1,500 kilometers with Niger, and then the whole of Benin Republic for a couple of years, stopping importation of food. And Nigerians went back to the land, sufficient people went back to the land, and we are now adequately feeding ourselves. I think we made a lot of progress.
How do you intend to encourage people? Because a lot of people will say that people were already, expanding. The CBN, through its Anchor Boras program, made some progress in that regard. But there have been fears for their lives. Security has discouraged many from going into farming. How do you intend to assure people that it will be okay for them to go back to the land?
Well, as I said, we have so many meetings with the law enforcement agencies, and we are already being very hard on those criminals, and there is an improvement in the situation of security, especially in the Northwest, where I mentioned, in the Northwest.
Will it be sustained?
It has to be sustained, because if everybody rushes to the cities, what can we do? People have to be encouraged to go back to the land. We just have to encourage people to go back to the land. And doing that is to get machinery, clear the lands, provide fertilizer and seedlings.
I'd like to take you up on the issue of the Chinese loans. During the course of your administration, Mr. President, the country has taken a significant number of Chinese loans. And there is a possibility that we might be seeing the nation taking more to fix and build the much needed infrastructure in the country. There are fears, though, in many quarters with these loans that the nation Nigeria might be being plunged into a debt trap. Are we?
Well, we take debt where it is necessary. I told you now of something that I'm sure you know, what it used to be between Lagos and Ibadan alone, not to go to the rest of the country. But we got the Chinese to help us in the rail, in the roads. How can we turn that down? If we had turned that down, maybe between Lagos and Ibadan now we have to walk. So the Chinese are welcome. Anybody that is prepared to come and help us our infrastructure, I told you, the roads, the rail, and power will be welcome.
As much as I wanted us to move on from the economy, and when I was asking the question about the Chinese loans, one we wonder where the nation was when you took over office in 2015. Our debt stock at the time was about 12 trillion. Now it is about 32 trillion. Inflation rate was about 9%. It is now sitting about over 15%. Unemployment rate was about 8.19%. It is now 33.28%. Exchange rate was about 197 naira to $1. Is way over 400 naira to $1. So people will look back, economically speaking, and say, look, before you took over office, some of these indicators were fair. And now, the figures are not friendly at all.
Well, I'm not sure how correct the calculations are, but all I know is that we have to allow people to get access to the farms. As I said, we just have to go back to the land. We have to go back to the land. What we have done so far, as I said, we have achieved some successes. And people ought to measure our successes vis-a-vis the problems when we started. You have given your figures as you calculated. But the important thing is this, that the farms that produce machinery and so on, tractors and so on, we have to build the infrastructure. And we have identified the infrastructure we need. We have to make the rail working. We have to make the roads. And if you have listened to the Minister of Works and Housing, how much of the roads we have built and rehabilitated, and how much of the rail we have done. And if you talk to the Minister of Transportation, the planned transportation from Lagos to Ibadan, then to the east, then from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, and then from here to Kano, and even up to Niger. I think we need to appreciate what we have done with what we have within the time we have been here. Maybe in 2014 and so on, I told you from 2014 to back to 1999, how much we are earning. And the problem now, petroleum industry is becoming more complicated and unreliable, let me put it that way.
No doubt, the issue of Nnamdi Kanu and the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, could be a touchy one, and Igbo elders will be looking forward to an update on their meeting with the president. Yes, he obliges and gives a status report.
Recently, you told a delegation of Southeast elders who visited you here in the villa that you would consider their request for the release of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. Do you have any update on that?
There is one institution that I wouldn't dare interfere with, that is judiciary. Kanu's case is with the judiciary. But what I wonder is when Kanu was safely in Europe, abusing this administration and mentioning too many things, I never thought really he wanted to voluntarily come and defend himself on the accusation he has. So we are giving him an opportunity to defend himself in our system, not to be abusing us from Europe, as if he was not a Nigerian. Let him come here with us and then criticize us here. And then Nigerians know that I don't interfere with the judiciary. Let him be listened to. So but those who are saying that he should be released, no, we cannot release him.
No possibility of a political solution?
No, there is a possibility of political solution. If people behave themselves, all well and good. But you can't go to a foreign country and keep on sending incorrect economic and security problem against your country and thinking that you never have to account for what you have been doing. Let him account for what he has been doing.
Mr. President, as we wind down now, I don't know, I think that sometimes you must sit and reflect about when you tried many times to be leader of this country and you succeeded on the fourth attempt. And I'm sure that you had your goals for this country when you ran for office, the many times you offered yourself. When you think and look at where Nigeria is and the way forward, do you fear for this country? Do you fear for our oneness and our unity?
No, I don't. I don't, because, to be frank with you, from 15th January 1966, I have been in all the trouble in this country, including being in detention for more than 3 years. I think Nigerians, they make noise, I think, to get a better deal, but they know that we are better together than separate. I sincerely believe in that. They just make noise so that they can get better deals.
One conversation that has refused to exit national discourse in Nigeria is restructuring.
True federalism is necessary at this juncture of our political and democratic evolution.
Some will say the APC had it clearly written in their manifesto. But what does President Buhari think about it? But there are those who believe that if we continue at this rate, we might not last together for much longer, that we need to restructure to truly achieve our potential. Do you see that argument?
Those who talk of restructuring, I want them to define what do they mean in their own concept of restructuring. Do they want more states? If they want, look at the map of Nigeria. At whose expense? I was having a problem with people from Southeast. They said they wanted each geopolitical zone about 6 states they want. I say, okay, go and look at the map and see how many of the existing states will contribute to the other states. That was the end I had about them.
President.
I mean, I'm just wondering, because of those who think that the federal government is too heavy, it's handling too many things. The states need more powers. They need to be able to unleash themselves. And that if we're able to empower the states and in turn empower the local governments, perhaps unemployment will not be at such a high level. Perhaps states will be a little more autonomous to handle a lot more things at their level. Do you consider that argument sometimes?
I do, but I want to, you just mentioned it now, try and find out the relationship between the local governments and the states.
Clearly, we had overshot the time allotted, and it was time to go, but not before we snuck in some poses, single words or phrases to which we requested one-liners. Mr. President, as we wrap up now, I'm just going to quickly get your immediate reaction to the following phrases. All we're going to ask you to do is that for these last words, which we will say, tell us what comes to mind, maybe in one sentence or two. And the first one is Nigeria's young people.
Nigeria's?
Nigeria's young people, the young people of Nigeria. What comes to your mind when you think of them? In one or two sentences.
I wish when they go to school, when they work hard, when they earn the degree, they don't do it thinking that government must give them a job. You get educated because an educated person is certainly better than an educated one, even in identifying personal problems. So education is not just meant to hang on to government to give you a job, and what the colonials indoctrinated on, to have a car, to have a house, and to start work at 8 o'clock and close at 2 o'clock. No.
All right. Another word, another phrase is PDP. What comes to mind when you hear that word?
PDP. Failure.
What about Lagos-Ibadan Expressway?
Well, look at it. Is it not on? Lagos-Ibadan. As I said, if we hadn't put the Chinese and get some people to work for us, you would have been walking that distance by now.
Another one is the second Niger Bridge.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What comes to mind when you hear that word?
Well, go and ask the people in Southeast. They are celebrating it before it is even completed, because it is giving them another route, to get to the other parts of the country.
INEC?
INEC.
Mm-hmm.
Are you criticizing a professor? I think the professor is doing his best. He has already told us about the elections that are coming in some of the states before the general election in 14 months' time or so.
2023 elections.
Mm-hmm.
2023 elections. What comes to your mind?
It's not my problem.
You're not going to be interested in who succeeds you?
No, let him come, whoever it is. All important things, I made sure that they are on record. Nobody should ask me to come and give any evidence in any court. Otherwise, whoever it is, he will be in trouble. Because all important things are on record. I made sure about that. Important issues are all on record.
You don't have any favorite for 2023 in your party?
No, I wouldn't, because he may be eliminated if I mention it. I better keep it secret.
The last phrase, Mr. President, is your legacy.
Well, I think my legacy is that I try to make sure that we conducted ourselves with integrity. That means we stopped all the stealings as much as the system can allow. We stopped with appropriation. And for Nigeria, that is very, very important. The expectation from Nigeria, I tell you, is a young population. The expectation is so high that we must make sure that the resources are managed properly and that they understand resources are being managed properly. If they rebel, there will be trouble, a lot of trouble.
And then it was a wrap.
Your Excellency, President Muhammadu Buhari, many thanks for giving us this opportunity to speak with you. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you for punishing me. Yes.
Mr. President, it was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much. We truly wish you.
Come and remove your thing.
What a way to start the year, Maokwe. Perhaps as we start 2022, the political year, we might see more of this from the president.
It's fingers crossed, Sean. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But certainly one to look forward to. Thank you so much for watching.
And again, Happy New Year, everyone.